Hey folks, Jessica here. So today we're doing Pride Ascendant, Golden Knight, Proud Plus specifically. If you're not familiar with these are essentially challenge mode fights. There's a whole series of them. There's like Golden Knight, Violet Knight, Gilbert, uh, Insignia, and Great Wall. I think there's gonna be one more because I think there's supposed to be six, so one for each element. But yeah, those are the ones available right now. There's a Proud version, which is not that bad, and then a Proud Plus version, which tends to be a lot harder. So I'm going to specifically focus on Proud Plus here, but I'll go over the difference between Proud and Proud Plus for Golden Knight as we talk about the skills and stuff. And then you might be asking, why do you want to do these? Well, you want these commendations from them. So here, let's look at what that gets you. If you jump to Zephyrus shop under quest items, Pride Ascendant, so right here, event other, Pride Ascendant, you can access this shop. And you can trade the accolades. These are the ones you get for the Proud version, not the Proud Plus. For earrings, don't recommend you do that. In fact, I don't really recommend you trade for the earrings. You get mats as well. Don't really recommend you trade for those. You can trade 3 of the accolades, the ones from Proud, for a commendation, a Cloud commendation, which is the one you get from Proud Plus. And then you can trade that in turn for various stuff. Apparently, you trade for an Ultima Core. I don't really recommend that unless you are just overflowing with the need for Ultima weapons. And then you can also trade them for tidings if you are having trouble clearing the Celius HL, totally an option. But the ones I recommend you trade for are either the Damascus Ingots, Perpetuity Ring, or Sunlight Stone. So Damascus Ingot takes 2, Sunlight Stone takes 3, Perpetuity Ring takes 3. And these are just like, if you can get like clear those fights, there's no reason not to clear them to get these, because like these are super valuable. But yeah, we'll jump into how the fight works. And again, I want to stress, I'll show you how I'm going to clear it. It's going to be very different depending on what you have access to, because these fights are, like, admittedly pretty complicated. So let's jump into it. Okay, Stiggy is joining us for the explanation here, and I'm actually gonna, here, I don't do this that often, but I'm gonna hide my camera so my head isn't in the way for this. So here we go. Let's talk about what Golden Knight does. We'll start with the Proud version, because the Proud Plus version is pretty similar, it's just the numbers are different, for the most part, though the numbers being different actually makes the fight considerably harder. The first thing you note is you can't use full elixir here, obviously. You got 30-minute limit, and here, this is important. She is immune to a whole bunch of stuff. She's immune to gravity, delay, poison, putrefied charm, zombify, sleep, paralysis, and petrify. Basically anything that would mess with her charge damage, she's immune to. In addition to that, her normal attacks are going to deal 2 damage instances in this first phase. She does quite a lot of damage with her normals, and in Proud Plus especially, that gets very dangerous in the early stages of the fight before you progress her to the point where she's slightly debuffed. She has a base defense of 15, so she's decently tanky, and then all the buffs on her cannot be removed. So remember that. You cannot dispel her. In addition to that, remember, you cannot manually mess with her charge diamonds because she's immune to gravity and delay. So don't bring things like Gravity Wave, don't bring manual delays, don't bring a para, don't bring any of that stuff. It's not, you can't use it on her. So why this matters is she starts with a very powerful and considerably large suite of buffs. So the first one she's got is golden armor, but we'll get back to that because that's actually the main mechanic of the fight. But in addition to that, she's got attack up, 50% defense up, refresh, triple attack up, charge attack damage cut, and charge attack damage cut again. The reason why it's 2 charge attack damage cuts is they're different, even though they're named the same. They have different icons. One of them nullifies all element damage cuts, so you can't phalanx her, basically. And then the other one makes it so she takes 50% less damage from your charge attacks. So these all have a 4-turn duration. Note that, because the way you get past this is you need to let 4 turns expire so these fall off. So you basically, one of the trickier parts of the fight is surviving the first 4 turns, because she's going to do a huge amount of damage every turn. You'll see in my run, I rely on like mirror image in order to soak some of those hits. This matters more on Proud Plus on Proud, because if she lands all those hits, they'll kill people. And if she chooses to focus somebody, which can happen, she'll kill them. So it's just a thing to keep in mind. So beyond needing to just survive 4 turns, you also need to mess around with the golden armor mechanic. So how this works, she has multiple versions of golden armor, and those represent the phases of the fight. So in phase 1, on Proud, she has golden armor, 3 million skill damage. So if you read this, it says HP won't lower below 20%. So don't worry about that. That is just part of her phases. When you get to the final phase, it will remove that restrictor from golden armor, and you will be able to take her below 20%. This just exists so you can't burst her from like 21% to 0. It exists to prevent that. But the second part is the important part. 1 charge diamond is reset for every 3 million skill damage taken 1 turn. So if you deal 3 million damage to her, she will self-delay. And you can also remove multiple charge diamonds that way if you do like 6 million damage, for example. Okay, so next things to note. We'll start with the second one. When Golden has no local buffs, so none of her buffs, and she's at maximum charge diamond, she's going to cast Great Horizon. And this is why you needed a layer, because Great Horizon over here does large earth damage to all allies, but more importantly, it reapplies all of those buffs that we didn't want to deal with. And that usually just pretty much means you wipe. You can potentially have her do that and still survive if you're very tanky and have lots of debuffs and lots of sustain. But at least in my attempts, every time I let that happen, I just restart the fight because she'll just kill you the next turn, or you just won't be able to keep up. Because remember, in addition to doing a lot of damage, she's also very tanky in this mode and refreshes herself, so it's just hard to make progress against her, and you're just going to lose the attrition fight if you let her cast that. Now, if she has her buffs and hits maximum charge diamonds, she's going to cast Starless Twilight Slash. That is also very bad because it deals Starless Twilight Slash deals 16 hit earth damage to ally with the lowest current HP. So she will focus the person that's about to die, and then if they die before they receive full damage, the remaining hits are going to hit the person with the next lowest HP. Like Golden Knight does not fuck around. She will start clapping person after person after person with this thing if you let it go off. And then it also extends the duration of the buffs on her by 4 turns. And they can be extended to a maximum of 8 turns. And you're not surviving if this thing is up to 8 turns. So, like, yeah, basically, if you let any of this shit happen, you're probably gonna die. Let's see. So, what that basically means is the main mechanic of the fight is ensuring those things never happen by meeting the specific conditions of the golden armor for that phase. So, in phase 1, it's all about skill damage. You need access to multiple things that will deal 3 million skill damage in order to repeatedly delay her to keep her from doing this. So the other thing to note is there are triggers, because of course there are. So 85%, she'll fill all her charge diamonds. So you want to be careful, because if you like are at, say, 88% and you blow a bunch of skills to do 6 million damage to her and you double the layer, but it pushes her below 85%, that's kind of wasted because she'll fill all her charge diamonds. Like you want to enter 85% trigger with her at like 1 of 2 charge diamonds, so like don't worry about blowing all your stuff right before this trigger. 70%, she casts Gilded Purpose, and that is basically the phase transition. And note, she will attack after using Gilded Purpose, so don't plan on her not attacking that phase. And when she does Gilded Purpose, that transitions to phase 2, and she will cast Golden Armor Chain Burst. So this is just like the first Golden Armor, but the delay condition is different. This will delay upon you dealing a Chain Burst to her. Now, I found this part more difficult than the first part, but it's going to really depend on what access you have to it. The reason I don't like the Chain Burst phase is unlike the skill damage phase, you can't do multiple delays in 1 turn because a Chain Burst is a Chain Burst. If you deal a 4-character Chain Burst, it's going to delay her once. If you deal a 2-character Chain Burst, it will delay her once. So you have to be careful that you stagger your Chain Burst, because you don't want to do a full 4-person Chain Burst, because you won't be able to delay her next turn unless you have a lot of Ignition skills. Ignition skills meaning things that give you full charge bar. So you have to plan pretty carefully around this. And basically, beyond that, Same deal as last time. You just got to keep delaying her to prevent Great Horizon and Starless Twilight Slash from going off. And otherwise, it's the same. 60% is another fill all her diamonds trigger. So again, be wary of that. And then 50% is a new mechanic. So this is Helio Drain. So she will cast Helio Drain on the first turn after 50%. And this on Proud does bunch damage to all your allies. And then inflicts charge bar cut 100% to everybody. And this is the part that's devastating. Increases all skill cooldowns by 2 turns. You're very reliant on skills in this fight. So getting delayed like that is rough. I got around it with a Quillen, as you'll see, and that's how I recommend you get around it. I'm not sure how people otherwise get around it, but Quillen definitely is one of the really good solutions to that. Now, if you get her 40%, she'll cast Gilded Purpose again, and that will transition to Phase 3. Phase 3 is Golden Armor, 25 hits. So same deal as all other phases. You want to meet the condition in order to delay her. So this one is 25 hits. Now I'm gonna note something here. I'm pretty sure you cannot double delay her in this phase. I am almost positive you cannot double delay her in this last phase, because I've tried to deal like 60 hits in a turn, and it hasn't double delayed her. So either I keep on messing that up and I'm just bad at counting, or you can't double delay her in this fight. So I would not expect to be able to double delay her in this phase. But yeah, so from 40% to 20% is phase 3. And the only thing to note here that's different is there's a Helio Drain at 28%. That's the only thing you need to keep in mind. Now, the transition between phase 3 and 4 happens at 20%, but there's something you need to remember. When she has golden armor, she can't be reduced below 20% HP. So you don't want to burst her hard past 20% because you can't. Anything that would push her beyond 20% is just basically ignored, so it's wasted damage. So keep that in mind. You want to just ease her into 20% and then save your burst for after that. And then when you get her 20%, she goes into phase 4, which is the final phase. So this last phase is essentially a burn phase. And I say it's a burn phase because she has uplifted on her. So she will fill her charge diamonds all the way every turn. And you can't remove this, obviously. This is a race. You need to delay her every single turn, and then you also need to just kill her as soon as possible. The thing that throws a wrench in the race is this final form of golden armor has an additional caveat. Elemental damage per taken per hit is reduced. This isn't as much an issue on Proud, but on Proud Plus, it does become more of an issue. So what that does is it caps damage received by Golden Knight to 2 million per hit. On Proud Plus, this becomes 1 million per hit, and you see why that might become more of an issue. At 2 million per hit, though, this is really only going to affect charge attacks. If you charge attack her for 8 million, it's going to drop down to 2 million. So keep that in mind. In this phase, you really want to rely on multi-hit skills if you can, because chances are you don't have a multi-hit skill that does more than 2 million damage per hit. And then beyond that, the delay condition is still 25 or more hits per turn. Now, other things to keep in mind in this final burn phase, her normal attacks now deal 4 damage instances. If she doesn't have her buffs up, this still hurts, but it's not going to be devastating. If she does get her buffs up, this is just going to kill you, in addition to all the other stuff she'll do. And the last thing to note here is she will Helio Drain at 7%. So ideally, push her from like 8% to 0 if you can. But that's the Proud version. Let's look at the differences in Proud Plus, and then I'll run you through the actual fight. So Proud Plus is essentially the same thing as Proud, plus a couple mechanics, plus everything is just enhanced. Like, it's going to be harder to hit the delay conditions. We'll get that in a second. And she will hit harder, and her buffs are stronger. So let's look at some of the differences. I don't have numbers on it, but I assume her attack boost is stronger here. Her defense boost is definitely stronger. It's normally 50%. Now it's 100%. So just expect everything here to be essentially enhanced. And then I believe this is different. She doesn't have an echo on Proud. She does have an echo here. Yeah, so she doesn't have echo on Proud. On Proud Plus, she does have an echo. What this basically means is you're going to need some form of damage mitigation on those first 4 turns. whether it be like just heavily debuffing her attack, because you can attack down her, by the way. Like she's not immune to that. Um, or you're gonna need mirror image. You can't phalanx her, remember. So you're gonna just have to find some way of mitigating that damage. I relied on mirror image, as you'll see in the fight. But then the other major difference here is that interrupt condition, that delay condition, on Golden Armor used to be 3 million damage. Now it's 5 million skill damage. So 3 million skill damage, pretty easy if you run a little bit of skill damage boosting stuff. 5 million is where you're going to probably have to use a skill damage grid to reliably be able to deal 5 million skill damage. Wind has a very good skill damage grid, which you'll see. So you're going to probably need a specialized grid to get through this fight. Other than that, I believe all this stuff is essentially the same as the first phase. Just looking through to make sure I'm not lying to you. Yeah, all that's the same. So the delay condition in phase 2 is still the same. It's still just a chain burst. That part doesn't get harder. You don't need to do a bigger chain burst or anything. But this is also where a new mechanic comes into play. She will start casting Force of Will. So when an ally is at critical HP at end of turn, so red HP, she will automatically cast Force of Will. Force of Will removes one buff from all allies, so dispels you. Inflicts 30% charge cut on all allies, so she'll cut your charge bars. And then this is the part that is dangerous. She will fill one charge diamond. So you really don't want her to cast Force of Will at all possible. And remember, she'll do it every turn that an ally's at red HP. You can probably survive like an ally dipping into red HP and then you heal them up and she gets one Force of Will off. But if you leave an ally at red HP for multiple turns, she's just going to repeatedly Force of Will you, and you're just not going to be able to keep up. And a lot of this fight is honestly managing your skills and charge bars to always have access to something to delay her. Hitting those delays regularly is the main mechanic of this fight. So yeah, she still Helio Drains at 50%, so keep that in mind. But beyond Force of Will, phase 2 doesn't actually change that much. When you get her to 40%, she will go to phase 3. The first difference in phase 3 is Golden Armor now takes 30 hits to delay. 25 hits versus 30 hits. Not that big a difference, but do keep in mind it will take more hits. And I am almost positive you cannot double delay her in this phase, as I was saying before. Because I tried many times, and I'm almost positive I've dealt 60 hits her in one phase and not in one turn and not double the layer, so I don't think you can double the layer. But if anyone is able to double the layer in this phase, let me know in the comments, because I'm kind of curious. I'm pretty sure you can't, though. Remember, she will still cast Force of Will here, so don't leave anybody at red HP. And then also note that, again, she will now deal 4 instances of damage per hit. So that can be a bit of an issue, but as long as you don't let her get her buffs up, that shouldn't be super dangerous. I think more what you have to be careful is that fact that she does more damage. Don't let her like clip someone enough to drop them the red HP, because then she'll Force a Will. So you want to keep everyone reasonably healed if you can. You might not have that luxury depending on what team you bring. The big difference, though, in this phase is she adds a new mechanic here called Sword and Flux, and you're really going to have to pay attention to this. This is actually easier to understand than you might think. What Sword and Flux does is when it's active, because she doesn't automatically cast it when she enters phase 3, she has to take a turn in phase 3 and then she'll cast it. But while it's in effect, when you use the first skill in a turn, she will react to it and use a counter skill on her based on what kind of skill you use. So the table is right here. And remember, she's only going to do this once per Sword and Flux. So the first skill you use will trigger Sword and Flux, and then it will go away, and then you can use more skills, and then next turn she'll Sword and Flux again, and then if you use a skill, it will trigger, and then it will go away. So basically, you only have to worry about this for first skill. But here's the effects. If you use a yellow skill, so buff, she'll gain Repel. The Repel does 2,000 damage, and it's up to 5 hits. It's not that big a deal. Just keep that in mind. Red, if you use a damaging skill, she'll deal earth damage to all allies. This one isn't that big a deal either. It's like 3k damage or so. It's nothing too nuts. But like do keep that in mind because again, you don't want to accidentally push someone into red health. Green isn't that big a deal either. It just removes one debuff from Golden Knight. Blue is the one that you do not want to trigger. If you cast a debuff on her, you're gonna die because blue will cause all ally skill cooldowns to be increased by 3 turns, and that's bad news. So do not ever use a blue skill, a debuffing skill. If you want to use a heal skill, that's fine. Red skill, it's fine. Yellow skill, it's fine. But a blue skill, a debuff, do not do that. Make sure you use something else first. Like, I cannot stress that enough. If you trigger the blue thing, you're probably dead. Then beyond that, same as before. Other things to note, she will cast Helio Drain at 28%. And remember, you cannot push her past 20%. You've got to let her get to 20%, enter the next phase, and then you can push her further. All right, the final phase. And I've got to say, Aaliyah does not fuck around. That's her name, by the way. I think Golden Knight's actual name is Aaliyah Ishtavian, if I remember correctly. Anyway, neither here nor there. Big thing in this final phase. When you enter 20%, she's going to inflict Summonless. This is a major difference because Summonless basically means you can't do things like save a Quillen for the final phase and then just use Quillen Burster. So 20% to 0, you've got to really manage the economy of skills because you've got to burst her down without being able to use summons. And that actually gave me more trouble than anything else in this fight, I think. So other differences here, note that the golden armor effect that caps damage taken is enhanced here as well. She can only take 1 million per hit. So that, like, charge attacks, not going to be very effective here. Assassin's going to be pretty limited effect here. You really need a lot of skill damage, but not like single hit skills. Like a single hit skill does 8 million skill damage. It's only going to deal 1 million. You need specifically multi-hit skills. So think like think Valentine's Grimnir, think Siete, think Melissabel, think Katura. All those characters have skills that deal multiple hits. And because of that, they can skirt under that. Because even like Katura, who does the most skill damage to all those characters I mentioned, at maximum stacks is not going to deal anywhere near 1 million per hit because she deals a lot of hits. She deals like 24 hits. So yeah, she doesn't do 24 million per button press. Okay, so let's talk roster. And here's a roster I used, but I'm just going to say straight up, your approach to this fight is really going to depend on what access to characters you have. I'll give you some things to look out for and some suggestions, but again, it's going to really be heavily dependent on what you have access to. Things you're going to want: characters that deal a lot of skill damage, characters that deal skill damage through multiple hits, and characters that can get instant full charge bar or have increased charge bar gain. The ideal character in this fight, just straight out, is Katura. So she has an ignition skill. Ignition skill just means they get full charge bar on one skill, but hers also gives main character full charge bar. In addition to that, it also heals and it removes debuffs. And if you cast it a third time, it will give charge attack reactivation to both her and Jita. And like that's super big because she cuts her own skill cooldowns every time she charge attacks. And potentially, since you're also getting Jita charge bar, depending on what main hand you're running, that might also be like super helpful to double use it. But yeah, so she does a 3-turn cut to her skill cooldowns whenever she charge attacks. If you have reactivation, that's a 6-turn cut. And her nuke is only 7-turn cooldown, so it becomes a 1-turn cooldown if you double charge attack. So that's great. But in addition to that, she does an absolute shit ton of skill damage. At my Katura at maximum stacks of this skill does about 15 million to 16 million damage with just her 2. And then in addition to that, it's multi-hit, a lot of hits. So if you're not familiar, it starts off as 12 hits every time you use it, but every time you use it, it gets more hits. By the time you use it a fifth time and beyond, it'll be 24 hits on that skill. The rest of her kit, you don't really worry about, but she's kind of the ideal character for this. Now, if you're thinking, but she's limited, well, a character that's actually very similar to her, just slightly worse, is Melissa Bell, who's not limited at all. If you aren't familiar with Melissa Bell's kit, uh, well, okay, Katura's 1 gives her main character full charge bar, right? Melissa Bell's 1 gives her full charge bar, not main character. Katura's charge attack gives Katura 3-turn cut to her skill cooldowns. Melissa Bell gets a 2-turn cut to her skill cooldowns. And then Katura's 2 is a multi-hit nuke that builds number of hits. Melissa Bell's 2 and her 3 are a multi-hit skill that builds hits based on number of nukes. So you can see how they're very similar characters. And Melissa Bell is very strong as well, especially with a skill damage grid. So that's I'm running both of them for a reason. So those are 2 examples, but who else is good? Another character that's very good here, with one important caveat that I'll get into, is Valentine's Grimnir. So the reason why he's good is his skills have a 1-turn cooldown, and his 1's a multi-hit damaging skill, so it can get you, it can really help to do some of those delays. And if you build up enough Cyclone stacks, his 2 is a 20-hit skill that deals with my grid roughly 11 to 12 million damage, which is very helpful. And then in addition to that, his attacks count as 3 hits, so they can help with hits. All that's very good, and I do use him, but there's one significant downside with him. His charge attack does not deal damage, and that means it doesn't count for a chain burst. So actually being able to delay with Valentine's Grimnir in phase 2, where you need to do a chain burst, is significantly difficult. Like like having Grimnir here actually really messes up your ability to deal chain burst. So you're gonna have to really rely on things like ignition skills and Quillin, honestly. And just very careful charge bar management, because like this makes it a lot harder. Now, if you don't want to use Valentine's Grimnir, another character that's pretty good here, here, let me kind of get to him. That's somewhat similar to all those other characters is actually, where is he? Siete. And honestly, if I had Siete at Siafon, I guess, if in the NA version, if I had him at 5-star, I would probably use him. Because again, you want charge bar, you want multi-hit, and he gives you both those things. Because he's got a 10-hit nuke, he can give himself full charge bar, give team full charge bar. Like, he's very good here as well, and also not limited. So like, and a lot of people have 5-star him at 5-star, so like totally a good option as well. Talk about the rest of the characters I'm running. Matera, I did use her in the clear, so she's fine. She only has 1 multi-hit nuke, but she does have 3 nukes. So like, she's fine. As you'll see in the video, she was able to basically help me just close the fight out. If you want another character that's not limited, I've seen people use Sutera as well, for much the same reason. She's got 3 damaging skills. Again, doesn't really have a huge multi-hit skill, but I mean, the 2 of them do a lot of skill damage, so like they can help you get there as well. I've seen people run like Neo. Now Neo doesn't do any damage to her skills, but she helps with survivability, because if you get the tuning effect on somebody, they'll deal less damage to a team. I wouldn't really recommend her in this fight, but I've seen people do it. And then, like, really, you've got the basic criteria. And Dira gets used sometimes too. She does give you the ability to give someone Echo, which can help deal hits, and she's just got some good buffs, but she doesn't deal a lot of skill damage or a lot of hits on her own. Do also keep in mind that if you use Sage of Eternity, this does give you an Echo and bonus damage, but it's a boost to hostility. So if you use this while Golden Knight has her buff up, she will just kill the person that this is on. So do keep that in mind if you're running Indira. A big reason to run her, though, is she does have a full heal for the whole party. So, like, all that's pretty good. I've seen people run the other evoker whose name eludes me at the moment. The hermit. I don't remember his name because he does a lot of skill damage as well. I don't have him, so I can't really speak to that firsthand. And then I'm running Catskelia, or Catzelia. I always call him Catskelia. I don't know why I do that. Catzelia in the back row, mostly because of the sub-ally effect. He heals everybody a little bit if they're not debuffed. If they are debuffed, they get attack boost. That little bit of health regen might just be enough to keep you out of red health range, which is frankly really important. Those are some options. There's probably other options you could use that are very good, but that's what I ended up using, plus some other suggestions. And again, really, you're gonna need characters that meet those criteria in order to do this fight. You need multi-hit skills. Like I don't think that's really optional at all. And then charge bar manipulation, like any kind of charge bar manipulation is very helpful to have as well. Okay, the grid. I'm gonna only talk about things that are a little bit different than a standard primal wind grid. The first thing I'll call out is I'm running 2 aviary beaks. Now I'm hesitant to say that you absolutely need aviary beaks to clear this fight, but I'm pretty close to saying that. I don't want to say it because I'm sure somebody will be like, "Oh, but I cleared without any aviary beaks." If you're able to clear this fight without any aviary beaks, let me know because I'll be suitably impressed and also very curious what you're running. So if you're unfamiliar, this thing gives you supplemental wind ally skill damage. Now, it's not skill damage cap. And what this does is it adds an additional amount of damage for every hit of a skill. So a single hit skill doesn't benefit that much from this, but a multi-hit skill benefits significantly from this. And this is why Katura, at least with my setup, does about 15 million to 16 million, not even exaggerating a little bit. 15 to 16 million damage on her 2 once fully built up with 2 of these things. In addition to that, you might be wondering what this weapon is. This is Heaven's Cloud. This is Petra's weapon, so it's not limited. Main reason I'm running it is, again, skill damage cap. And then, in addition to that, my Dark Opus weapon does have the skill damage key on it as well. And then the only other thing that bears a little bit of explanation is I'm running Indra's Edge. This is a garrison weapon. It's attack, crit, and then big garrison. This is just helpful because, like, garrison's a very powerful effect, especially for a difficult fight like this. Plus, this is just a decent weapon overall. Like medium attack, medium crit, not a bad skill to have. So that's the grid. Okay, summons. First thing I notice, I'm running 2 Chirins. If you've watched, I think that's how you pronounce it. I've been saying Quillin, but that's wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Chirin because I think it's a Chinese word. Is it a Chinese word? Someone let me know. I'm gonna say Chirin in hopes that that is correct. But I'm running 2. If you watched any of my solo fights, you see that I lean really heavily on Chirin, and the reason why is the call is instant skill cooldown for all allies, and you can't resummon it. This is exceedingly powerful for any really hard fight, for any kind of solo fight. So, honestly, if you're gonna want to get into doing solo fights or the harder fights, the Proud Pluses, I really recommend you try and get at least 1 fully uncapped Chirin, if not 2. Chirin is farmable, like entirely farmable. It's not exactly an easy thing to farm, but you can definitely farm them. Just Rise of Beasts, get a whole bunch of Beast seals, and then find Huanglong and Chirin trains, and you'll be able to get a fully uncapped Chirin, if not 2. That's super important, I would say. Beyond that, I'm using Raphael for extra damage. Also, Raphael gives mirror image. Zephyrus, a nice thing is Zephyrus does, the Zephyrus summon does give you bonus charge bar, so that can help with your charge bar management. But if you don't have Zephyrus, if you're running Magna, that's fine as well. Because Tiamat gives you mirror image and then attack down on call. And remember, you can attack down Golden Knight, so Tiamat's fine. And then you might think Belial's a weird choice because he does lower my HP, but he also gives me supplemental damage, and the damage is important. And I found I was able to get by even with HP cut, but again, it's up to you. Really, other summons you might look at, anything that gives you charge bar. So, I mean, you could even think about something like a Huanglong, or like Kaguya, if you got that, because she gives charge bar, and like anything that gives charge bar is also helpful as well. Anything that gives mirror image can help you out. Really, you've got a lot of options, but this is what I ran. I definitely recommend at least one Chirin, two Chirins if you can manage it. Okay, let's talk classes. So I'm using Tormentor, but you've got a few options besides that. We'll come back to Tormentor because Tormentor bears a lot of explanation. I've seen people do this with Robin Hood. That makes a lot of sense because Robin Hood does a lot of skill damage, multi skills, can debuff. That's pretty good. Monk I've seen use as well because Monk does a lot of skill damage, multi-hit. If you do use Monk, I think entirely valid to build the Monk class champion weapon. I know I don't normally recommend these, but for skill damage win, this thing's actually pretty legit because it gives you more hits on Matera. And again, as we've talked about, if you're running Eowarrior's Beaks, more hits adds up really quickly. So the extra Matera damage is the main reason you'd run this. But that if you don't want to run Monk, I think another option besides Monk is I think people have said that they've been able to clear this with Lumberjack as well. That makes a lot of sense. Lumberjack gives you a lot of sustain, a lot of debuffs, a lot of buffs to the team, that kind of thing. Lumberjack doesn't do any skill damage though. Not well, okay. Lumberjack does a little bit of skill damage through like the little animals that get summoned, but not a lot of hits and not a lot of consistent skill damage. So I'd be a little bit hesitant to run Lumberjack for that reason. And then Tormentor. Okay, so I'm running Tormentor. I'm not going to give the full explanation of Tormentor, but the gist of it is Tormentor has access to a whole ton of different secret gears. Um, Now, you have to farm for these. These are not free, they're all consumables. So, if you have a lot of mats kicking around, you can trade for these and it's not that big a deal. But for somebody that doesn't have a lot of access to mats, this can be quite a pain. And some of these are rather annoying. As you can, the recharge raft I think is the most brutal one to farm because it requires converging rays and then like silver centrums to make. But Tormentor is a really good option because you can bring 8 gears out of all these options. So you can kind of customize the Tormentor kit to solve whatever problem you might be having. Briefly, the kit I'm using. So I'm using Smoke Bomb Pluses because it gets you 2 hits of Mirror Image. And you'll see when we actually get in the fight, this is how I survived the first 4 turns. 2 hits of Mirror Image is enough to survive Golden Knight's autos while she's fully buffed. A regular attack while fully buffed. In addition to that, I try to use Motivating Draft whenever possible because it's a stacking attack and defense down. I should also note the cooldown on this is 1 turn, so you can use one of these every turn. If I'm ever just short enough skill damage to delay, I use Throwing Knives, and then these bandages, single target bandage. Sorry, this is Bandage Plus is all allies. Regular bandage is single target. The bandages, the heal is just nice to have, and it actually does become relevant because it does let me get a character out of red HP, I think, in the clear video. And then Echo here, that's nice to have. But a big thing is you get access to 100% charge bar on demand up to 5 times with recharging graft. And then in addition to that, if things really like go off the rails, you can use recharging graft plus recharge draft to give Jita 100% charge bar and then charge attack reactivation, and then she can self chain burst. So yeah, Tormentor, pretty good. But again, a bit of an expensive class to play in terms of resources because everything's consumable. Okay, you're gonna have to forgive the slightly scuff format here because I'm gonna comment over my clear video as opposed to doing it live because honestly, it's a little bit distracting to try and commentate on it live, and this required a little bit of concentration on my part. Also, I changed the corner I'm normally in because I put this little cheat sheet up, and I do actually have this up on my screen while I'm doing the fight so I don't forget something like a charge diamond fill or a Helio Drain or all caps do not use blue skill while Sword and Flux is in effect because messing those things up will kill you. So I keep this up as a reminder for myself, but it's also a reminder for you. So let's take a look. I tried Quillen friend summon, or Chirin friend summon rather, but I eventually just went with Zephyrus for more HP and more everything really. Um, You can use Cheer and Sub-Summon if you're having trouble with getting skills on time. Like that was what I was doing before, but I eventually was able to handle it without a Cheer and Sub-Summon, so that's why I went with Zephyrus. So remember, you can cause her to have attack and defense down with Miss. And then I used a smoke bomb there to get rid of one mirror image, and you'll see that that 2-hit mirror image is very crucial. Thing to note here, I do use Katura's 1, even though I'm not going to charge check this turn because I want to get the cooldown on it rolling, and I'll just hold on charge check. Same thing with Melissa Bell's 1, though it might have been better to not use it here in retrospect because I'm not actually going to get benefit from it, as you'll see next turn. That's fine. So note that only one of those hits actually landed. Everything else got dodged, and it did 20,000 damage from just hitting once out of all those hits she threw out. So be very careful. So here's Matera's 2 and 4.5 mil, pretty respectable. But remember, it's going to keep getting stronger. Grimnir is doing 2.5 million, and remember, you need to deal 5 million total to delay. So I'm working around that number. I'm just gonna keep on smoke bombing, and I'm holding everything else because remember, you've got to just pace yourself. You need these skill. You need to delay every turn. You're just not gonna do much damage this early phase because remember, she's got 100% defense up as well. So it's mostly about surviving. Again, only one of those hit, but did like 16,000 damage. So we're just gonna keep on mirror imaging. There's other ways to get past this phase, but this was the one that worked best for me. So that was about 4.7 million. So I need another like 300,000. So like calculator slightly off. I didn't talk about retaliation reprise. Just pausing a sec. That resets your execute skill, so you can execute again. And I did that because I have to mirror image, but it's slightly short on damage. So by resetting there, I can throw a dagger to get enough skill damage to delay, which is what I'm doing. There you go. Not a lot of skill damage, but it's enough. And then we use Zephyrus here just to get everyone's charge bar a little bit more built up. And remember, Grimnir does not do damage on charge check. If he did, then he would be very good. Like, he'd be perfect for his fight. But not doing it is actually kind of troublesome, to be perfectly honest. Note with Melissa Bell and Katura both, you want to use their charge attacks pretty frequently. Not charge attacks, their skills pretty frequently, because it builds up the more times you use it. Like, you want those to be full potency by the time you get into the later phases of this fight. And it's very much worthwhile to charge attack Katura because I'm reducing her skill cooldowns, even if she's not going to do much damage here. And same thing with Melissa Bell. Okay, so the buffs fell off there. So we're past like the first major hurdle of the fight. Now the second hurdle is just keeping her delayed so she doesn't reapply those buffs. Because if she does, we're basically the fight's basically over if she reapplies those buffs. So Katura did 4.5 mil, now it's 8 mil, and as you see, like the more times you use it, she's gonna do more and more and more damage. So that was about 10 million damage there. And any turn that I don't have something I need to do, urgently, I will usually use that Motivating Drought to build up attack and defense on my team. Everything adds up because it's a stackable buff. But see, she's way less dangerous here. Like, she's not going to do very much to you. You just need to make sure she doesn't reapply those buffs. So we'll miss, because, again, very important to keep that up. And then Drought, or Motivating Drought, is that the name of it? Whatever the name of that is. The attack up and defense up, because we want to stack it as much as possible and keep it stacked. Also, that tiny heal is from Catzelia in the back row, and that adds everything adds up. Grimnir's at 10 stacks, but I'm going to hold on to his stuff for now. And then we're going to continue build up damage on Melissa Bell with her Hair Sabers. And Motivating Draft again. Note I haven't used Decimate on Jita. I should have mentioned I'm using Decimate and Mist in addition to Retaliation, Reprise, and well, Execute. You can't swap out Execute, so of course you're running it. And Decimate mostly because it's damage, but also hits. So 80%, 85% was a charge diamond fill, which I didn't mention at the time, but that wasn't a problem. The next thing we need to worry about is the 70% transition. Continue to build up stacks. See, like Melissa Bell's doing about 4 million on those Hair Sabers now, so like she starts doing a lot of damage. So I use Grimnir's 3 here, which adds crit, lets both sides crit and add supplemental damage. The reasoning is this would help me push in the later phase. This is actually quite dangerous to do because it also means she will benefit from it as well because it's a field effect. And like in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have done that because that was very dangerous to do. But you know, it worked out. So we're using Melissa Bell's instant charge bar there because we want her to cut skill cooldowns. So, we need to delay here. We've got plenty of stuff to do it with, but if I remember correctly, I think I might go for a double delay. No, just go for a single delay. Doing the double mirror image here, and then just onwards. So I believe the reasoning, just pausing a sec, that I only single delay there is I want to double delay going into phase 2. Because remember, you can only single delay in phase 2 because it's based on chain burst. So that's why I saved Katura's 2. Because Katura's 2 here should deal almost 10 mil, if not over 10 mil. And that would double delay. And then it will set us into phase 2 cleanly with her at 0 charge diamonds. And that's the kind of micromanagement you need to have to like really make sure you don't put yourself in a bad spot at any point in this fight. So yeah, let's see how much damage Katura does here. And then get charge bar on everybody because again we need chain burst to delay, so it's nice to have. 9 mil, so Grimnir's gonna deal another like 3 mil. There you go, there's the double delay, and now we're gonna Motivating Draft, and then we are in phase 2. So, let's see. 60% is a charge diamond fill, so we gotta be careful. And remember, Force of Will is an effect, so if anyone's in red HP, she will start doing Force of Will. So we gotta be a little bit careful that no one gets that hurt. Gilded Purpose, reapply Golden Armor. Now, there's not a lot of reason to hold our skill damage unless we're trying to pace ourselves. We do need to pace ourselves a little bit because Chirin hasn't cooled down yet. 2 more turns. So the issue I'm running into here is I don't have a Chain Burst. So I use Charging Drought on Jita to get her charge bar, and then Zephyrus to get Melissa Bell charge bar, and then now I do have a Chain Burst, so I can delay. And you really want to delay every turn you can if possible. I hold her Hair Saber here because I don't want to push into 60%. Because 60% is a charge diamond fill. But I do push in there, so this is that was a mistake because now she's going to fill charge diamonds, and now we've got to deal with it. So I'm in an awkward spot because Chirin's not cooled down, and I don't have Chain Burst in deck. So this is where I have to use both drafts. So I give Jita a full charge bar, a retaliation reprise, I execute again. The second I execute, it's me a recharge draft. Now Jita has charge track reactivation. That's how we're gonna chain burst. That's my only option here. And now I'll use everything because Sheeran's gonna cool down next turn. And note, Melissa Bell's hitting for almost 5 million now with her hair sabers, so like she does a lot of damage once she gets those things built up with this grid. So here's our solo chain burst. There you go. Later. 50% is a Helio Drain. So a note on this, Helio Drain is a savage delay. And I'm going to sidestep it by cheering, but that does mean I want to enter the Helio Drain having spent all my shit, so I get the most benefit. So that's why I'm trying to edge right up to 50%. If you had enough damage, you could potentially just push from 51 to 40 and skip the Helio Drain, but that's going to take a lot of damage. So my calculation here is 1 turn for Katura's 2 to come up. So I can stay above 50%. I can actually let that cool down, use her 2, and then use her 1. So I won't get too much into it, but basically I'm trying to be very efficient with these skills, because it matters. Also note that Grimnir's on 7 stacks of Cyclone, so I can use this 2 for about, I want to say 11 million damage. So our goal is to be right above 50%. We do not want to push into 50%. And that's actually one time where the fact that Grimnir doesn't do damage on his charge attack does help us. I can't remember we accidentally pushed into 50. Okay, we do. So that's not ideal, because we don't get to use Katura's 1. Also note that that hit dropped Katura down into red, which triggered Force of Will. So none of that was ideal. Like, that was not a great turn. So we gotta use Sheeran now because the Helio Drain put everyone super cooldown. So let's see how much damage this does. 10 million there, 10.5 million. We're just gonna try and push pretty hard. That's another 10 million total. And I forgot actually Melissa Bell hurts herself when she uses her 1. I actually just put her into red health. So I do need to bandage to get her above red health, because I don't want to end the turn with her in red health. So I'm checking there because I forgot that that field effect goes both ways, which is part of the reason I took so much damage as well. Also notice Katura healed herself quite a lot because I used her 1. That heal is pretty significant. I guess I don't bandage Melissa Bell here. That's an interesting choice, Jessica. Why didn't you? I guess I'm holding Retaliation Reprise. But it does mean, I think, that she will Force a Will again here. Also, we're pushing into phase 3. So now the condition is going to be 30 hits to delay. And there's a Force of Will. So, phase 3. 20% of Helio Drain we need to play around. And now I really need to top off Melissa Bell, because I don't want her to Force a Will every turn. Ooh, how much are we doing now? 13 million on Katura's 2, not bad. There we go. Bandages, because Tormentor, again, solves all your problems, and Melissa Bell is ever so slightly above red health. So at least we're not going to trigger Force of Will every turn now. By the way, this is by no means a clean run, but it does get us there. So that's what really matters. So remember that we get Summonless happens at 20%. So we do need to use that Sheeran before 20%, but we want to use it as close as possible because we want to go into 20% with our stuff like all ready to go. Grimnir's at 10 stacks, and I believe I would ideally want to enter phase 4 with the 10 stacks of Cyclone. But if I recall correctly, I do use it here with the hope that I can build back up to it rapidly. Because I need the hits to interrupt. But that was actually a huge mistake. Because remember, Sword and Flux, right? If you use a blue skill, there's like all caps do not use blue skills. With 2 eyes apparently, because it was very important. Even all caps, I forget I use a blue skill and then I delayed everybody. Like that was a huge mistake. So now I have to use the cheer in here, even though I don't want to, because everyone's on super delayed skills. So like, yeah, that was not ideal, but we make it work. And if you're wondering like why I'm just being very slow here, it's because I'm trying to figure out if I can actually do this run or if I need to just reset. There's another huge nuke from Katura, 21%. So this will push us into phase 4 when I attack. And the double charge bar cut from the reactivation is going to be super helpful here because it means we'll enter phase 4 at least. For everything that went wrong, at least Katura will enter phase 4 with her nuke up. But that was not ideal. Also note that while I did do a lot of damage to her, it didn't push her past 20 because you can't go past 20 until you actually enter phase 4. You can't spike past 20. Okay, phase 4, the final phase. And now we're essentially in race mode because she just inflicted Summonless on us. So just use all the things. Remember, Sword and Flux, so she'll counter nuke here. It's not that much damage. Like, that nearly 6 million on a single hair saber from Melissa Bell, so Melissa Bell's no joke here. Just trying to save all the damage I can, so I mirror image. And we need to do we still can delay, we just need to do 30 hits. So that's the thing we need to play around. If I remember correctly, I think I used both Melissa Bell's hair sabers, so that should be 20 hits. Getting another 10 shouldn't be hard at all. And we want Preserver stuff. So that's why we're not charge attacking here. This is where Stig jumped on my keyboard, by the way, if you're wondering why the thing panned. So we did delay. We're good here. Melissa Bell's almost dead. Kura's gonna come through with a nuke. $13 mil. Melissa Bell just died from the Sword and Flux. Gonna go ahead and just hit her with everything. And then Matera is coming in. That was the damage cap right there. That's why single shot nukes aren't helpful. But she does have a multi-shot nuke, so that was good. 2%. Like, we just need everything. I'm gonna smoke bomb to try and keep people alive one more turn. 1%. There's the Helio Drain. And yeah, we're not in good shape. So I debate for a while whether or not I want to use the skill here because we just need 1%. But Catzelia doesn't really have something that would help that much here, so I just go for it. The very last attack from Matera is what pushes us over. The very last attack. If she hadn't landed that, we might have wiped there. On like a 0.1%. Like not even a 1% wipe, but like a 0.1% wipe. But there you go, there's clear. So yeah, Golden Knight, I don't want to downplay that fight at all. It is a legitimately hard fight. I'm sure some other people might have had an easier time based on what their grids were and what characters they're using. But I probably tried her like a good 20 times before I cleared her. I want to say I had at least 15 wipes in the first 4 turns. Like a thing that happened repeatedly is I tried various classes like Monk and Robin Hood, even Relic Buster and Lumberjack before I settled on Tormentor. And like all those other classes solved specific problems. Like Robin Hood would brought a lot of skill damage and some debuffs. Monk would brought a lot of skill damage. Relic Buster would give me some better charge bar control. Lumberjack would give me more sustain. But the thing I was kept on running into all those other ones is Golden Knight would just randomly kill someone in the first 4 turns because sometimes she'll just target somebody with more than like a couple attacks and they're dead. So Tormentor gave me a lot of consistency with those smoke bombs, and that's why I went with Tormentor eventually. Really, you're just gonna have to tweak what you want to bring. You could probably just bring a more defensive cast of characters and then run a different Vegeta setup. You have a lot of options. But yeah, if you're trying to fight, let me know how it's going for you. I'm curious. It's I find these fights interesting. Like they're fun. I like the Pride Ascendant fights all are thematically different enough that like I think they present an interesting puzzle for you to solve. So I really like them, and the rewards are pretty good because again, big reason to do it is you can trade for Damascus bars and sunlight stones, which everyone needs a lot of. So yeah, there you go. That's Pride Ascendant. Hopefully, you guys are having luck if you're trying it out. If you like this video or it's been helpful for you, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!